Hello, my name is Jennifer Nicely, and I decided to research the Teacch intervention system. Teacch stands for Treatment and Education of Autistic and Related Communications Handicapped Children and is a whole-of-life intervention. It was co-founded by Dr. Eric Schopler, who was a German-born American psychologist. His family was Jewish and fled Nazi Germany and immigrated to the United States when he was around 10 years old. They settled in Rochester, New York. His early life in Germany during the Nazi reign really impacted him. He states that he could not understand why his friends and family were being persecuted for literally doing nothing wrong, just for being Jewish. This really drove him to study psychology to try and understand human behavior. This fueled his research to understand why people and children behaved the way they did. He wanted to know why people did what they did. Hitler persecuting the Jews was something he could never understand, and at this time people were blaming parents, especially mothers, for the children having autism. It was a question of social misunderstanding in both cases. He didn't understand how mothers were being blamed for this, so he really started to look into how the brain worked and different conditions affecting the brain. Through his research and studies, he eventually co-founded the Teacch program at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. He is seen as one of the first doctors at this time to see autism as a neurological disorder, not a psychological disorder. He certainly didn't see it as a parent problem. He was one of the first to stop blaming mothers for their children's conditions and really look at autism as treatable. He published an article titled Parents of Children as Scapegoats in the Journal of Contemporary Psychotherapy. He felt there was more to autism than just blaming parents and set out to research and learn more about the behaviors and brains of these children. He wanted parents to be involved in their children's lives and saw them as co-therapists. Teaching children with autism isn't something that happens between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. Parents needed to have the skills and abilities to help their children too. He believed these children could be taught communication and social skills that would help them in their daily lives. For the first time, he was someone who believed that children with autism could be taught daily living skills to increase their independence. Teaching such skills as hand washing, dressing, brushing teeth were important to help children with autism function in daily life. He really pioneered a new thinking in autism research. In his dissertation, he found that children with autism showed less preference for visual stimuli compared to non-autistic children. Schopler used a puzzle task to compare these two sets of children. The visual way of solving a puzzle would be to look at the colors of the print of each piece and use the picture to solve the puzzle, while a tactile way would be to use the shape of each piece instead. Schopler discovered that children with autism looked at the shapes of the pieces, while children without autism looked at the print of the pieces on the puzzle. This demonstrated that children did not simply behave differently, but saw the world and processed information differently than non-autistic children. The 5 principles of Teacch are physical structure, consistent schedules, establishment of expectations, maintenance of a routine, and implementation of visually based cues. This framework is used to support children with autism so they can have opportunities to learn and develop. Physical structure is the first part of the Teacch method. It refers to the individual's surroundings or environment. Each area of learning should have clear physical boundaries in place for all of the day's activities. For example, playing takes place in one part of a room, and eating takes place in a cafeteria. The physical layout of the classroom is an important consideration when planning learning experiences for autistic children. Even the arrangement of the classroom furniture can help or hinder a student's independent functioning and his recognition and compliance with rules and limits. Many autistic students have organizational problems, not knowing where to be and how to get there by the most direct route. Because of receptive language difficulties, they will often not understand directions or rules. Structuring the environment gives them visual cues to help them understand. Some people with autism are also easily and highly distracted by things in the environment. Teachers need to structure the environment so it is not as distracting. Consistency in the timing of events is the second principle of the Teacch method. This can be established through verbal communication, written communication, and drawings or pictures. Schedules are a big part of the classroom structure needed by autistic students. Many students have problems with sequential memory and organization of time. Receptive language difficulties can also make it difficult for students to understand what they should be doing. For example, a schedule for a 5-year-old in a preschool class for children with autism might include a board with pictures of the day's schedule. Those pictures might include the American flag for the Pledge of Allegiance, a picture of a book for story time, and a picture of crayons for art. The second row might include a picture of a plate for snack or lunchtime, a picture of a playground for recess time, and a picture of a ball for gym class. Besides giving direction to everyone for certain time periods of the day, a schedule can help a student organize and predict daily and weekly events. This lessens anxiety about not knowing what will happen next. Besides knowing what activity will happen during a time period, a schedule can aid students in transitioning independently between activities. A schedule lets them know where they should go next. Also, students with low initiative may be more motivated to complete a difficult or dreaded task if they see on their schedule that it will be followed by a more enjoyable task or activity. There will be a class schedule posted for everyone to see, and then typically each student will have a smaller schedule showing what the student needs to be working on now and what is coming next. The third principle is the establishment of expectations. These expectations may be behavioral, activity-based, academic, or for communication. Having a clear set of expectations makes it easier for a parent, caregiver, educator, or therapist to set up consequences or interventions when the expectations are not met. All children need boundaries, rules, regulations, and expectations. The setting of boundaries defines limits and provides unwritten, invisible rules of behavior that provide structured expectedness to the world around them. Boundaries provide safety and security. Without boundaries, children can become lost, anxious, and insecure. Children on the autism spectrum have a very difficult time reading unwritten and invisible rules and boundaries. Children on the spectrum require concrete boundaries, or their behavior may look disorganized. This principle also includes activity measurements. The goal is to set up the child for independent work and functioning. The student should be able to complete their work with a minimum of written instruction. The principle is that poor behavior or achievement is not to be excused because of the disability. You cannot pity the individual because they have a disability. Research has pointed out that quality of life and employment is associated with higher levels of education. It is also known that the higher the level of educational attainment, the better the quality of life, due to great possibilities of successful and competitive employment. High expectations lead to a fulfilling life for these individuals. Maintenance of a routine is the fourth principle. Setting up and maintaining a routine is essential for a person who has autism. People with autism typically thrive on consistency. When something that is outside of their routine occurs, this may cause them to withdraw or become uncooperative for the activity or event. Changes can greatly impact these students and their behavior. Parents, caregivers, and educators all need to work together in order to maintain consistency in a routine from one environment to another and one school year to another. And last is the implementation of visually based cues. According to the Autism Speaks organization, the visually based cues that are part of the Teacch method are designed to supplement the verbal information provided by an educator, caregiver, or therapist. The visual information could be written on paper or on a computer. It could also be drawings or graphics, such as a picture of a shirt on a bin, so the child knows that the shirts go in the bin. Teacch can be used with students who have autism of all ages. The individualized approach means it can be used across all age levels as long as the framework stays the same. It looks at the different skill levels and abilities of each student to further their learning. Teacch is based on the research that individuals with autism are predominantly visual, as evidenced by the puzzle task. This means interventions are focused on physical and visual structure, schedules, work systems, and task organization. Individualized systems help to address the difficulties with communication, organization, generalization, concepts, and sensory processing issues. Because it is such an individualized approach, it helps each child with autism significantly improve their independence with functional and academic tasks at home or in the school environment. There are several core values to the Teacch method. The first being the teaching. Teachers need to share knowledge and increase the skill level of students through innovative education, teaching, and demonstration models. Next is expanding. Teachers should be committed to expanding the knowledge to individualizing the needs of students with autism. Appreciating the students is third. Understanding and appreciating the unique strengths of students and their families. Seeing the whole family and looking at parents as co-therapists. Collaborating and cooperating is next. Teachers need to embrace the collaboration and cooperation in our interactions with staff and students, as well as the community. The goal is to educate students so they have the ability to be integral parts of the community through employment or volunteering. Being holistic. It stresses the importance of learning more about the student, their families, and their individual needs in the environment. I've read this study, Effects of a Model Treatment Approach on Adults with Autism. This study was co-conducted by Dr. Eric Schopler. The purpose of the study was to evaluate the effectiveness of a model residential program in improving the treatment program and the adaptations of individuals with autism with severe disabilities using the Teacch model. The central goal of the study was to measure the degree to which the treatment settings were individualized to meet the unique needs of the residents with autism, to maximize their ability to function as independently as possible in the community. In addition, the study examined the family satisfaction with the treatment program and the changes in each subject's behaviors and skills over time as a function of their treatment setting. The study had 32 adolescents and adults with autism participate, and they were recruited from applicants to the experimental treatment program, the Carolina Living and Learning Center. The results of this study supported the hypothesis that participants who moved into the experimental treatment program based on the Teacch philosophy experienced a higher quality of treatment as compared to the participants in the control setting. Compared to their own baseline and compared to the control groups, the participants in the Carolina Living and Learning Center experienced a significant increase in the presence of structure, individualized programming in the area of communication and social skill development, the use of visual systems to promote independence, the use of developmental planning, and positive preventative behavioral management strategies. The Carolina Living and Learning Center was also rated as a significantly more desirable place to live. This evidence shows that these changes reflected a better quality of life and were the significant differences between the Carolina Living and Learning Center and the group home setting in the family satisfaction with these programs. These findings, however, are limited by the small and unequal sample size and the relatively low return rate for the participants living in institutional settings. The important thing to see here is the impact of providing autism-specific treatment in the form of using visual structure, adapted communication training, and preventative behavioral approaches across all groups over time was significantly related to a reduction in behavior problems. I also read the study Preliminary Efficacy of Family Implemented Teacch for Toddlers, Effects on Parents and Their Toddlers with Autism Spectrum Disorder. This study examined the effects of an intervention to support parents and promote skill development in newly diagnosed toddlers with autism spectrum disorder. Participants included 50 children with ASD under 3 years old and their parents who were randomly assigned to participate in a 6-month intervention. It is called Family Implemented Teacch for Toddlers, or FIT for short. FIT included 90-minute in-home sessions and parent group sessions. Results revealed significant treatment effects on parent stress and well-being, with families in the FIT group showing decreased stress and improved well-being over time. While no treatment effects were found for global child measures, there were significant treatment effects on social communication skills. We know that early intervention is recommended for all children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder because of the chance for improved prognosis in the long term. However, this study wanted to look at the effects of those interventions on parents and their well-being or understanding of autism. This research is limited because it is not being conducted in diverse communities. There's often a period of time when a family learns that their child has autism and when early intervention begins. Interventions usually begin at a lower intensity, either because intensive interventions are not available or affordable, or because parents do not yet understand the complex needs of their child with autism. FIT aims to help parents understand the needs of their child and to also help with the stress and mental health of these parents. Family implemented Teacch for toddlers was developed to respond to the noted gaps in the early intervention literature on supporting toddlers with ASD and their parents. The results showed no specific treatment effect on general developmental skills. This finding is similar to other parent-mediated, low-intensity, yet comprehensive interventions, where parents learn a variety of strategies to support multiple areas of their child's development. It is likely that more than 90 minutes a week with parents in a comprehensive model is needed to affect broad developmental skills of toddlers. It may also take longer than 6 months for any changes in parenting behaviors to produce downstream effects on broader child outcomes, as there are competing environmental, social, and biological factors that are also affecting children's development. Still, there is a strong need for parents to have a program that supports them as they adjust to the diagnosis of autism and wait for more intensive services to start. This preliminary efficacy study of FIT supports its use for parents and their toddlers with autism. The improvements in parents' mental and physical well-being suggest that FIT may provide needed social support to parents and families as they are still coping with their child's diagnosis and searching for information to support their child's development. I've included a video of Dr. Laura Klinger, who is now the executive director of the Teacch program and an associate professor of psychiatry at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. The future vision for Teacch is a world where all individuals with autism spectrum disorder and their families have access to excellent evidence-based services in their home communities. Teacch Autism Program offers a variety of training and consultation to professionals who work with individuals with autism spectrum disorder. Some of these trainings or webinars are free, some cost as little as $10, but they offer a wealth of information for professionals working with students who have autism. The new Teacch mission statement reads, "The University of North Carolina Teacch Autism Program creates and cultivates the development of exemplary community-based services, training programs, and research to enhance the quality of life of individuals with autism spectrum disorder and their families." I've included some quotes that stood out to me while I was reading and watching the videos of Dr. Eric Schoffler and the families and children he has impacted. He gave us hope that there would be a turnaround in that, the blaming of parents. This from Ruth Christ Sullivan from the Autism Services Center in West Virginia. The Teacch program, which he established, had a huge impact all over the world. Michael Rudder, professor, the Institute of Psychiatry in London. I think that today we don't realize how remarkable what Eric has done was at the time. Catherine Lord, professor, University of Michigan. The last video is one that was filmed right before Dr. Schoffler passed away. Dr. Schoffler discusses his young life and how that shaped his path forward in life. Parents and colleagues give testimonials of how the young professor did not blame them for autism, as was common at the time. He looked at parents as collaborators in their child's lives. He felt autism was a psychological problem and used evidence-based research to help improve the lives of children with autism. He created an effective treatment to close the gap where teachers and parents worked together. Schoffler, along with several colleagues, created the Childhood Autism Rating Scale. This is a rating scale used to identify children with autism and is typically conducted by the child's pediatrician, educators, and parents. This behavior rating tool can tell the difference between if your child has autism or another developmental delay. We know early detection and services are key to improving quality of life, so this tool is so beneficial in that early detection. Schoffler wrote more than 200 books and articles on autism and related disorders. From 1974 through 1997, he edited the Journal of Autism and Developmental Disorders. He was also recognized with numerous awards on his research and work with autism. He truly changed the course of children and adult lives who have autism. I'm glad I chose to research the Teacch method and how innovative it was and still is. I like the whole of life approach and that the principles can be applied for someone who is 5, and those same principles can be used for someone who is 25. This is part of the reason I chose the two cases where one was the efficacy of Teacch with toddlers and the other focused on adults with autism. It helps to create independence as they learn communication and social skills. It truly changes the lives of the children and families who are part of the Teacch method.